welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom, and this is going to be my haul of stuff from, where are we, June and July. I'm tending to do these every couple of months now, as I am sort of somewhat dialing back in regards to just stuff, you know. And talking of stuff, we'll start off with these. I don't normally buy toys and kind of merch and stuff like this. I really don't have the space for it, and you know, films is one thing, but merch is something else. But I did buy a couple of toys. In my youth, Transformers is one of my favourite kind of cartoon shows. I actually have a tattoo of Transformers, my one and only tattoo. And this is one of my favourite characters because I had the original toy. It was called Jetfire when I had the toy, but he's called Skyfire in the cartoons. And these little figures, well, they were pretty cheap, to be honest. They're only like £6. And, you know, there's a couple others I might get if I see them. But, yeah, I just thought I'd pick that one up. At the same time, I actually picked up Trapjaw. And I also really liked the Masters of the Universe. And Trapjaw was one of my favourites. He's no Triclops. But I did like Trapjaw, and these ones are actually based on the actual 80s cartoon show. The kind of the mould is meant to be indicative of what they actually looked like on the cartoon show. And again, I don't want to get into kind of getting all of these. I'll probably just get a couple. I'll probably get like Merman and Triclops when they do them, and that's probably about it, to be honest. Yeah, so that is a Trapjaw figure. So let's move on to the actual media, the DVDs and stuff. And we'll start off with this DVD. This is a blind buy. It wasn't very expensive, couple of quids. The cover looked quite fun. This is a kind of a found footage horror film. There is a review of this one. Ultimately, it wasn't particularly strong. You know, pretty much a somewhat run-of-the-mill found footage movie. This one is called Cold Hearts, and there is a review of this one on the channel. So I actually had this on VHS, and it had like a cool lenticular sort of slipcase, I guess. But I don't have the VHS anymore. And this is a kind of a vampire movie, which is very reminiscent of The Lost Boys, or at least that's what it's trying to be. But it has very much a real 90s sort of Power Ranger type film. It's not particularly strong, but again, there is a review of this one on the channel. If you know me, you know I do collect Marvel stuff. This is the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, and this is a metal case, and this is from an Australian company called Easy DVD, and it's effectively just your generic DVD inside, although it's Australian issued. But yeah, Australia's did these. They're exclusive to Australia, and I've got a reasonable amount of these Easy DVD cases. The only issue for me is these are quite expensive to import. The postage from Australia to the UK is really expensive. So I happened to find this one from a UK seller. No, or was it? But wherever it wasn't mega bucks, so I kind of picked it up. I've got a lot of these, but there's still a couple I don't have. So then we'll move on to the Blu-rays, and this one is actually a Dracula 3-pack. I don't normally like getting kind of packs of films on one disc, because I like to have the individual films on collection, but I thought, well, you know, who cares? I'll give it a go. And this one has got the Dracula movie that stars Jack Palance, Dracula Reborn, and Dracula 2. I'm sure that was probably called something else at some point. I've seen this one. I've seen the Jack Palance one many years ago, and I may have seen these two. Who knows? But we'll give it a watch at some point. Next up, we got The Last Full Measure. Now, this is a Vietnam War movie, although I think it's mainly a kind of a dramatic movie, like the effects of the war that it has on, you know, people and stuff like that. I can't remember if I've seen this. The name sounds familiar to me, so I think I might have seen it, but I don't really remember it. So again, I kind of picked it up because I do like Vietnam movies. I thought I would give it a. It's got a pretty good cast there. It's actually got Sebastian Stan from obviously the Marvel stuff. Next up we have Beelzebub, and this is a Shudder movie that was released on Blu-ray. I reviewed it some time ago, and I quite liked it. So I came across the Blu-ray here, so I thought I'd pick it up because I did quite like it. I rated it fairly high, and you got Tobin Bell, of course, from the Saw movies there. Next up, we have a German release of vampire movie Boys from County Hell. And this is an Irish vampire movie that I quite enjoyed. It's somewhat comedic. I think the vampire is pretty threatening, though. Again, I quite enjoyed this one, so I thought I'd pick up a kind of a hard copy, a physical media copy. I don't know if it's outside of Germany. It's released, I think, possibly in America. But it's a fun movie, and again, there is a review of this one on the channel. So yes, Dick Shark. I thought I would pick this one up. Obviously, not a serious movie, and I haven't yet watched this one. It is a kind of a film that has two versions of it. There's a 2-hour cut and a 7-hour cut. I won't be watching that one, let me just tell you. And I bought this movie, obviously just for fun, but also the director did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or Mascara, Texas Chainsaw Mascara. And that was actually a surprisingly better film than I was expecting. I think this is an earlier film, so we'll see. But I do like a shark film, and yeah, Dick Shark. You may see a review of this one whenever I can be bothered to watch it. The Tunnel. This is, I believe, an Australian found footage movie, although it's not an Australian release. Some type of European, possibly German or Dutch release, something like that. And again, this is a pretty good found footage movie. It has been a while since I've watched this. This was one of the earliest reviews I think I did on the channel. Those early reviews are a little bit, they're a little bit low quality, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, the film is pretty good and is regarded to be one of the better found footage movies. And, and so I thought, I found it, and so I thought I'd pick it up. Next up, we have The Last Breath, and this is, at the moment of talking, the most recent shark film that is out. And I think this got a UK release before anywhere else. There's a review of this film on the channel. I actually kind of quite liked it. It's not perfect, but I actually think it's better than average in regards to the plethora of shark movies that are out there. And this is effectively about a group of divers who get trapped in a World War II sunken ship, and there's kind of various sharks that are around. And it's the last film of Julian Sands, obviously of Warlock fame. This was his last credited movie before he sadly passed away. Next up we have Ticks, and this is the Vinegar Syndrome release. I obviously got this kind of after the fact, but I managed to pick this up for quite cheap, considering it normally goes, I think £16 I paid for this, and it's got a double sort of slip case. You've got that outer box, and then you have this kind of inner one as well. It is a pretty good creature feature. It's like a staple of the 90s in regards to fun creature features about obviously giant ticks. Yeah, it's worth a watch if you like a gooey creature feature. So this is one of these films where I didn't think it actually ever had a Blu-ray release, but I actually found one. It's from Sweden. So this is a Swedish release of American Yakuza that stars Viggo Mortensen, of course, from many movies, but probably most notable the Lord of the Rings films. And it might seem like, oh, is it a kind of, American ninja-style action movie? And yes, there are elements of this, but it's actually somewhat of a dramatic movie as well. about this American sort of guy who actually ends up, through just circumstance, saving a top Yakuza guy's life, and ends up working for the Yakuza and kind of getting accepted into their ranks. One of the kind of the rare, you know, occasions where someone outside of Japan would ever get indoctrinated into that crime organisation. It's a pretty good film, quite stylised, and of course, you know, Mortensen's a great actor. It did sort of have a sequel. There is actually an American Yakuza 2, but it's actually nothing to do with this film. It was a film where they had filmed it as something else and just changed the name. Next up, we have Harvest Lake. Again, this is a movie I reviewed a little while ago. And I wanted to pick up this movie because it's got an interesting film. And this is a signed version. I actually came across another version with a different picture on it, but I like this picture. So I wanted to get this specific one. I wouldn't really care about the signatures, if I'm brutally honest. But yeah, I wanted that artwork. And it's a limited edition, 171 out of 750. Very sexualized horror film about these people that go to this lake, and there's some type of entity that is making them all kind of weird and stuff. It's somewhat Lovecraftian. So yeah, it's an interesting movie. Okay, next up we have Evil Dead 2. And I've got plenty of copies of Evil Dead 2. But I found this Mediabook. And I didn't have Evil Dead 2 in a Mediabook, so I thought I would pick it up. Because, again, it was reasonably cheap. It's I don't know how many it is numbered. I don't know how many it's actually limited to. Actually, I do know it says it right there, 666. So a Mediabook is generally a German or an Austrian release, which, you know, has variety of you know, artwork and photographs and things like this in the release. Obviously, it's German language, so you can't really read it unless you speak German. But they're nice editions. 3 discs. You know, Evil Dead 2 is my second favourite film of all time. So, you know, I thought it was a nice edition, so I picked it up. Next up, we have Air Force One. This is a pretty decent action film that stars Gary Oldman and Harrison Ford. This is an American Best Buy Steelbook. It's not released here in the UK as a Steelbook. So this is an imported one. It's a fun movie. I actually saw this at the cinema, quite enjoyed it. Again, I found the Steelbook reasonably cheap, so I kind of picked it up. I know my friend Chris desperately wants this one as well, but you know, there you go, it's a fun film. Speaking of fun films, so Red Dawn, this is a film that I watched when I was quite young, and it's kind of a World War III movie where you know, Soviet forces are attack America, and it's up to a group of teenagers really to try and kind of fight back. You know, it's a really 80s movie in many ways. Good cast: Patrick Swayze, Charlie Sheen, C. Thomas Howell, Powers Booth. A great kind of military action movie that's kind of got like a dystopian element to it. There is a review, and there was a remake of this as well that starred Chris Hemsworth, and it's not as good, obviously. So, The Walking Dead Steelbook, 11th season. Now, I kind of fell off The Walking Dead. I watched half of the 11th season and then didn't ever watch the second half. And this Steelbook, it must have been not made as many as the previous ones, because it sold out and ended up being ridiculous money. And I was like, I don't really want to spend out a lot of money for this. But all those come to those who wait. Just got to wait a little bit. So I ended up, you know, waiting for this one to get it on a kind of a cheaper price. I got it for £9. Sealed, brand new off eBay. You've just got to wait a little bit, and those initial prices will come down. I still haven't watched it yet. I don't even know if I've got the 10th one. I can't really remember, to be honest. But now I've got the 11th. And then finally for this month, we have Thor: Love and Thunder. This is the Mantalab Steelbook. It's a discless one. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where that's happening now, but you know, what can you do? It's a movie that isn't particularly strong. I don't want to spend a lot of money on these kind of discless ones, especially if I think the movie isn't particularly strong. But I managed to get this for £20, so you know, it's an exclusive actual steelbook inside. The actual, this is the slipcase. It is sealed, so I can't show you, but the actual steelbook itself is exclusive to this, you know, MANIA Lab release. But it's a fun cover. The film ain't brilliant, but you know, £20, what are you going to do? Anyway, that concludes my update for June and July. Please let me know what your thoughts are on any of my pickups, and I shall look forward to you next time.